Thanks for hopping on today's Primetime podcast. I actually have the guest, Chris Howard here. He's actually an owner of Fitness Together in Waxhaw, USPA powerlifter. I've actually had the pleasure of kind of working with him with his recovery process and the biceps, and we'll get into a little bit later. But I've learned a lot about you, and I just think, Chris, you've got a really kind of cool and unique angle on the health and fitness industry. You've got a kind of a complex background in various sports, and so if you don't mind, just feel free to introduce yourself to those listening and watching, a little bit about who you are and your background.
Well, thanks, Chad. I'm Chris Howard. I'm the owner of Fitness Together in Waxhaw, North Carolina. Chad has treated me. I tore a biceps in a powerlifting meet about 16 weeks ago, and it's been quite a process. We've done a lot of really good things, so I'm happy to come in here and talk about all that. And think that maybe there's some people out there that can learn from my experience, and just wanted to share and let you guys know what an amazing experience I've had working with Dr. Kuntz as well.
No, I appreciate that, and a lot of people listening or watching will have had a surgery or contemplated surgery, and it's kind of like, what is it all about? And is it maybe the easy road that people think it is sometimes, right? They think it's just, hey, do surgery and I'm good to go. I can save myself from investing time and doing this stretching. Hell, I'll just have a surgery instead. So there's that kind of thought process going
Absolutely.
on. Yeah. So if you don't mind, tell our viewers kind of how the tear happened. Let's just kind of get into how it happened, and
Sure.
Would there be anything in hindsight? I know hindsight's always 20/20, but what you could have done to maybe prevent it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think our experience here, one, taught me a lot, and I'm able to kind of look back and see that when that injury occurred, there were some things that I probably could have been doing that Dr. Kuntz has helped me learn that probably could have saved me from the injury itself. I tore the biceps. You may not be able to see the scar because of the tattoo while deadlifting, and it's a common deadlifting injury. But the bottom line, a big contributor was the fact that the muscles in that area were being stretched further and under a greater load than they should have been.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't paying attention to how, the rotation in my arm could have played into a direct pull like that. But like I said, I've learned a lot since that happened, and I'm very actually grateful that I went through it because of how much I've learned. So, yeah, absolutely. I think that knowing what I know now, I've changed the way that I lift to avoid injury, but also looking to train to avoid injury, not necessarily the same injury, but all injuries that are specific to my activities.
Yeah. I think you said something really profound and great there. It's like, I'm almost grateful for the injury. And I know that sounds maybe counterintuitive to some people, but the reality is a lot of people that come into my office, if I said, if there was a good intent for the injury, what would it be? And it just totally changes the whole way we look at it. It's kind of like, why did this happen to me, right? Why am I victimized? And it's like, no, like this is an amazing opportunity for you to learn like where your weak links are or have been. And I think the bigger question is like, are you open-minded to that? You obviously are and have been, and it's helped you and will get you stronger than ever and more bulletproof than ever. And now, especially in your position to help educate and work with others, that's going to be such an immense help to all your people that you work with because you've kind of lived it. And there's really no substitution for that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think professionally owning a private personal training studio where I work with a lot of clients who have had joint replacements, things like that. I kind of already saw some of these things that I had been dealing with, but I didn't probably think they were as important as they ended up being and caused the injury, but definitely changed my perspective on how I interact with my clients, because a lot of the same things that I've learned working with you, I see with them.
Yeah.
Again, maybe I was looking for that before, but I realized how much more important those types of, I would say even pre-training, before I really get someone into a strength program.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to make sure that they're able to safely do that. I know that sounds pretty elementary, but
100%.
Yeah, if I would have looked at myself honestly through that lens, I would have seen that I was setting myself up for an injury too. So having gone through this, makes me aware of that now, but also for other people too. I see those things because, like he said, I've went through it and I lived it. So.
Sure. Now we have to I'm going to let you kind of put on the ego hat because you're a lot more than a powerlifter too. I mean, I was joking about you earlier today. I was working with you. You got a 44-inch vertical. You played a ton of basketball. You've actually had a fair amount of experience in the basketball recreational world. So let's just take a step back, and just so the viewers kind of know your background a little bit more.
Sure.
Tell us kind of the athletic history, if you've ever had any other previous injuries, anything like this, and kind of like what got you to where you're at today.
Sure. Well, yeah, I grew up, I played highly competitive AAU basketball. I played for a travel team. We were sponsored by Nike. Nike paid for us to go and play in tournaments all over the United States when I was 14 through 16. And so I got to play with quite a few guys who made it to the NBA. I'm 36 years old, and I think all of them are retired now.
Right.
So yeah, I got to play some good basketball. I focused more on football in high school. Had an opportunity to play in college. Probably wasn't as mature as I could have been from my college years, but that was still a good learning experience too. I just probably didn't give my best effort then.
For sure, yeah.
But that was part of the learning process as well. But all of those things, you're right, they prepared me for what I do now. It gives me an opportunity. Well, one, I get to work with some athletes too. So
right.
I get to work with people that have just the normal fitness goals. I also work with a lot of people who have corrective exercise needs, which is pretty cool. But looking at it from an athletic background, I'm looking at performance.
Yeah.
And so even I try to, when I'm training my clients, I try to look at them not just like I do myself, but as an athlete. Even if their sport is sitting behind a desk or a traveling pharmaceutical sales rep, those sports for those athletes are going to cause problems that we need to overcome physically. And I think that being aware of that from an athlete standpoint kind of prepares you to look at how those athletic problems affect, like I said, someone who works behind a desk for 10 hours a day.
Well said, for sure. So appreciate that, and let's dive into kind of the recovery.
Sure.
So here you are, you're a power lifter, you're deadlifting, you have a tear. Kind of what goes through your mind when you tear your bicep,
Sure.
and then let's go into how your recovery has met or not met your expectations.
Okay, well, first of all, I tore the bicep in a powerlifting meet. I was fortunate. It was my last lift of the day. It was the last deadlift. I was trying to set a state record in the state of South Carolina, and that record broke me.
This time.
Right. I'm going to get it.
Right.
So yeah, immediately I knew what happened because again, that's a common injury while deadlifting, especially that amount of weight.
Yeah.
By the way, 658 pounds.
Boom. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is common enough to where when I felt that pain, I knew immediately what it was. So I went and saw a doctor. I saw Dr. Marcus Cook here in Charlotte. He works with the Hornets. So I got in within 2 days to have an MRI and surgery, which I think really helped me.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I actually already knew Dr. Kuntz, so it's kind of a funny story is right when I tore it, I told the hospital that I was going to be doing my rehab through him, and I hadn't even told him yet, so they called him. Yeah, so that's how that happened, and immediately I knew I was going to be not able to lift for a couple weeks, so that was an opportunity and a struggle too, by the way. That's what I love to do. So it was mentally, it was tough to not be able to work out. But the cool thing is, and I think I thank you a lot for this too, is that I kind of took some of that same energy that I take into meal prep and lifting and programming and put it into my wellness, into my own recovery. So I told Chad I was going to talk about not just the things that we've done, but I think it's really important that at that point in time I knew I had to take an attitude of I want to do everything from my wellness at this point. And I really dove in. So we've done a lot of good work, and I've seen Dr. Galen Collins in Waxhaw as a chiropractor, and a lot of the things that we've worked on, he's been able to kind of help me with my back, especially, you don't think that tightness and muscle adhesion going on in your back would affect a torn bicep, but it does. And we figured that out. So I've not only worked with the chiropractor, I also decided just because of a personal belief that I was not going to use any opiates during my recovery. So I got hooked up with the guys at Tar Heel Farms.
Nice.
They produce CBD products here in Charlotte, and I can't say enough that managing the inflammation in the area, and CBD worked incredibly well for me, but managing the inflammation helped me get better. The more we got inflamed, the more steps back we took. So bottom line is is at that point, I think committing to the entire wellness vision for myself was really the blessing in disguise.
Absolutely. And I think it was a time for you to kind of get back, like you said, just the whole shebang, right? Take care of the body, head to toe. I'll do anything and everything. It's kind of the mentality to help me just feel better and get through this. And
absolutely,
that's kind of a hidden blessing. And if I'm not mistaken, I feel like you did some maybe kin stretch or yoga. Let's get into that too, because I think that's been very helpful.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, I'm giving shout outs here.
Yeah, do it.
Michael O'Doherty has been my kin stretch instructor. It's taught me a lot, mostly about how inflexible I am.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, we've been working on that as well. And then I've been doing yoga, which was something I was already doing just kind of for fun, just for the experience. But I've really kind of poured myself into it. And like, again, I think you know, taking the attitude of investing in my own wellness.
Right.
And so that has all been part of this process. And so, you know, I wouldn't say fully recovered yet, but you know, functionally I'm fully recovered, and
right.
You know, it's been a great experience, and I'm not gonna stop implementing those wellness practices.
What a difference, right? That fork in the road.
Yep.
Victimization, why me, versus, okay, I'm in now, I'll do whatever it takes, I will invest in myself, my temple, my body, it's time to really take care of this.
1,000%.
Most likely even have some habits formed from this that'll carry on forever, which are only going to benefit you. But God, what a difference. Even the burden on the healthcare world, right? If you were just to let it go, like let everything tank and get diabetes and all this stuff, right? Now you're a burden on healthcare rather than a symbol for what healthcare could mean, you know, after you have the injury.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think, you know, with what I do with my business, I wish more people would take that attitude.
Yeah,
I do see, like what you said with our healthcare system, people are fixing problems after they happen. When we've talked about here, it's been really rewarding and beneficial to kind of take a proactive approach to that.
Absolutely. Sure. So let's get into maybe the most challenging part of, and I don't want to just say physical therapy, but just rehab in general. What do you think the most challenging part's been for you?
For me, like I told you, it's been mental because of, you know, I love to work out. So, you know, like I said, being able to put my energy into the recovery, it's different than working out. But for me, that was it. You know, just having that setback was frustrating. You know, so that actually lessened as I went through therapy. So.
I think it's the big elephant in the room, though. Most often, when people are hurt, no one seems to want to talk about how we're doing upstairs in between the ears. Yet that's really controlling and dictating everything we do and how we move and how we think. But for whatever reason, I think doctors just tend to think so timeline in terms of the tissue healing timeline, right? Well, just give it 6 weeks, Chris, whatever, and heal, and you'll be okay. You're like, yeah, but dude, do you know what that's going to do to me mentally if I'm unable to work out and feel who I am and my identity is now being threatened? Like, do you know what that's going to do to me? Because I see that in the rehab world all the time, and you might even see it sprinkled in there from a fitness perspective too. You might elaborate on that, but it's kind of like, let's slow things down and let's talk about how you're doing kind of in between the ears. I don't have to be your counselor per se, but let's give you that mental support that you probably need in this time.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and I think whether you're talking about a doctor or a trainer, you know, we too often just look at one symptom rather than the entire picture, and looking at someone and how they live their life and where their fitness or, you know, their physical activity plays a role in their mental well-being is really important.
Nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's flip the coin, and so we might have already hit it, but you can touch it again. What do you think's been the most rewarding part of this journey for you so far?
The change in perspective.
Nice.
I think, like I told you, I love to lift weights, you know, and so I still love to lift weights, but the thing is now is I look forward to preparing myself to lift weights by focusing on my wellness. So I now see how coming in and doing some therapy, whether it be cupping or dry needling or going to a yoga class, helps me lift weights.
Yes, exactly. That's
again, it helps me become a more well-rounded person. Because quite honestly, just being a weightlifter and trying to push so hard in one direction has contributed to how I got injured in the first place. Absolutely.
I've been there too. I mean, I think that hit me probably 25, 26. Like you're going to run into that wall at some point, right? Just the traditional weightlifting style. Lacked mobility a lot, never had tissue control, if you want to call it that. The tissue wasn't working well, and you're going to just run into range of motion limitations most often. You're not going to feel great. Joints might even start to ache. Not that you can't weightlift forever, but you do have to take care of the tissue and your mobility, and I learned that the hard way.
Well, and I'll even say it more so, is that I've now learned just by learning how my body feels when I'm doing certain movements, like there are certain times when I shouldn't lift.
Right.
You know, you shouldn't push through it if you know something is even just feels like out of alignment.
Yeah.
You should probably look at that beforehand and make sure you're good to go. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've pushed through a heavy weight workout just because I felt like I needed to get it done for my program.
Nice.
Where I might have a better overall program now if I took that day off and you know, did something to improve the range of motion or mobility rather than just push through with the lack.
I think you touched on a term called auto-regulation. So just listening to your body and being okay just because your program says X or Y. You don't have to hit those numbers. Some of that's just a personality profile kind of thing. Type A's, right? I need to check this box. I need to do 3 sets of 15. Yep. I had certain numbers I want to hit this morning. It was a chest day. Wasn't feeling too great. You know, just the body was knocking on my door, and I was listening and saying, I'm not going to hit those numbers today. So I'm going to just take it nice and easy. And still, I know I'm going to get benefit out of this.
Yes.
A different type of benefit. And just leave it at that. You know, we get in our head sometimes, and if you're anything like me, it's like you want the most out of every workout. Sometimes you need to change that way of thinking and, like you said, kind of auto-regulate and listen to more of your body. Otherwise, you might find yourself getting hurt.
Absolutely.
And then the doctor says, well, working out's not for you. It's like, well, no, we just needed to kind of listen into our body a little bit more and kind of keep going. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's keep going here. So how has this process changed the way you approach, if at all, training with your clients?
It's a great question. It's actually changed a lot. I mean, you know, these are issues that, like I've alluded to, I have clients that have, you know, both hips replaced, you know, knee replacements. People have had strokes, things like that. So, you know, we were already kind of aware of that.
Yeah.
But it's a totally different ball game when you've gone through it yourself.
Right.
So, you know, there were, I guess, it's a bigger priority now within how I program for my clients to make sure that functional mobility is there before the strength. Yeah. And I think those kind of, I saw those as kind of equals before, the way I viewed you know, my training programs. And I like the word wellness because I think that's really what the perspective of going through this whole thing is given me, is that I'm looking for wellness, not just fitness.
You're right. That's awesome.
And so a lot of times, you know, going through your own experiences, you transpose that onto what you see going on with other people.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just look for those things now, and not surprisingly, see them all the time.
Exactly. Now that you're looking for it and you're kind of open to that.
I also say, though, that I give that a lot more attention than I did in the past. So I think my clients have benefited from me going through this process. I was going to say benefited from me getting injured. But you know, absolutely. I mean, it's been a good thing.
So do you ever find your clients that maybe wanting to quit working out because their doctors told them stop, it's bad for your joints, and kind of what would you say to that client?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard that. I think when a doctor says that, you have to keep in mind that what they don't want is to give you advice and to have you come back and say that you took their advice and you had made the problem worse. So you always got to keep that in mind when you're listening to a doctor's advice. And, you know, telling you to not lift weights or exercise gives you the lowest risk of immediate injury. Now, scalability is really important here. I think, you know, taking an easy approach back into strength or mobility training, and like we talked about, auto-regulation, you gotta look how you see how you look and how you feel when you start basic movements. And, you know, if the doctor has told you to stay, well, first of all, I would say that they should probably come visit you. Because I think there's a lot of times that those doctors, like I said, are just trying to get you out of their room and
shuffle them out of there.
Exactly right. I would say to not be afraid of getting physically active.
Oh, I like that. That's huge right there.
Yeah.
Go on.
But to start with basic functional things, like, you know, if you hurt your back, you threw your back out, getting back into fitness doesn't mean bench pressing 135 pounds. It might mean jumping in the pool and doing a couple flutter kicks to see how your back feels. Right. You know, and if it feels good, to go on to the next thing. And I do think, you know, it's important, whether you're having a fitness professional like myself or a physical therapist, to be able to talk to about that. But, you know, you need to see how you feel and not be afraid to try to function the way you used to.
Love that. Nailed it. Honestly, you're doing some amazing things over there, and we've kind of had the luxury of talking a little bit about your vision as to where you see taking fitness together over at Waxhaw. So give kind of the audience a little bit of your insight as to what's kind of services and what kind of environment, what you're looking to provide over there at Waxhaw.
Well, I've used that term wellness a few times, and I think this experience has changed a little bit my vision for my studio, because wellness is the focus.
Right.
We do nutrition programming, and we carry a meal prep service, and that speaks to our commitment to wellness. But at the same time, I get an opportunity to work with clients of every demographic. I've worked with teenage football players, pro basketball players, 80-year-olds. Like I said, people have had joint replacements. So I think the most important thing that we're doing over there is teaching, especially the older folks who may not have ever had any experience training, an introduction, a safe introduction to strength training.
Nice.
And I got to tell you too, having someone who's never lifted weights before and comes in thinking they can't do anything or aren't capable, and then guiding them into a process where they realize they're stronger than they originally thought and there's more room to grow. That speaks to our commitment to wellness. So when you talked about the psychological aspect of it,
right.
and not playing counselor, one of the benefits of being a personal trainer, working with people one-on-one, is we get to know them really well.
Right, exactly.
So when we're looking at how we physically perform and what's nagging us, it's usually related to things going on in their life, in a client's life. That's true with me. So,
so true.
Taking that big step back and looking at the wellness rather than just the strength or mobility is always key. Because there might be a time where, and I've done this too, where a client probably needs a little bit of a break. Isn't necessarily in the right frame of mind to strength train. Maybe there's something going on physically. We need to be able to say, hey, today should be a day where we stretch.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead, or
exactly.
Do a little foam rolling or something like that instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think what we do a little bit differently is, besides program for both nutrition and fitness, is really look at how it all fits into how you're living your life. So if I were to sum up, what we do and what my vision is how we can impart, physical fitness and a program of wellness into someone's life that, they maybe didn't think they had room for. And
nice.
I've experienced this with my clients. Is just like my process here is get people to invest in their own wellness. And I think that's the important part of looking at the entire person, not just the physical being, because when we're doing that, we're working with people, not just their bodies, not just their strength, but working on everything about them. The investment in their own wellness is huge, and that surprises a lot of people when they do invest in their own wellness on a daily basis, where that can take them, and it's fun to see.
You hit so many good points there. You've got a really good, rich background in this too, and I think it's going to empower your clients. And just the ability to say, invest in your bodies. It's one of those things that you and I can see how it could help someone, but sometimes it's hard for them to see because they don't feel it right there, right? We
Absolutely.
Just live in the present. But when you see people transform, as I'm sure you've seen some of your clients transform their lives, you're like, this is what we're talking about. You're investing maybe not just the money, but also the time and the energy and the dedication to legitimately change your life. And it's one of those like cliche things that are stated over and over. But until it happens, so I'll just leave it at that. But it's just incredible.
I agree with you professionally. Like that's one of the best and most rewarding things I think about working in the industry that I do, and I know you see that too. So I worked for a large bank in the past. And it's so totally different than what we do now. But I'll tell you, for me, this is so rewarding. So going through this process has made it even more rewarding because now I can appreciate when my clients are going through something similar way more than I did before.
For sure. Well, listen, if you're on the fence at all about wanting to start some personal training to really to take the wheel and get healthy and get fit again, definitely check out Chris over at Waxhaw. It's worth the drive. I know traffic and this and that, but guys, just find a way and prioritize it. It's not usually time. It's about prioritizing it and investing in your health and looking in the mirror and being honest with yourself and just following through with it. And if you're on the fence, Chris, I would love for those in the audience that are kind of going, yeah, that's me, it's time for me to get back. This guy seems to really have a great, rich background and understand me, right? You're not just a typical box gymmer. It's just come in and let's work you out.
Yeah.
You've got a very rich history. So how can people get a hold of you, and how can they get started, and what does that look like?
Well, first of all, you can find us on Facebook. We're Fitness Together Waxhaw. You can email me personally, chrishoward@fitnesstogether.com. And go ahead and take a look at our website, also fitnesstogether.com/Waxhaw. Lets you know a little bit more about like what we do and the personalized approach we take, and our commitment to wellness. I think also it's important to know that our staff, like myself, we have through our experience connections with guys like Dr. Kuntz, who I happily refer to, because once it's true, like what you said, once people kind of get the bug of investing in themselves, a lot of people don't look back from that, and thank goodness for that. So
I don't know of anyone, I'm going to be honest with you, I legitimately don't know of anyone that's truly put the time, the energy, the focus, and the dedication, the money, and given it time, right, having it patience, 6 months to 12 months later, I mean, people dress differently.
Yes.
Like they start to look and feel differently.
You come off the couch, you get your car out of the drive-through line, and in my opinion, start living life.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I think that's, by the way, I would say too, whether it be coming to see me, coming to see Dr. Kuntz, or finding a yoga class near you, no matter if it involves us or not, I would encourage everyone that's listening to start investing in their wellness. You'll feel better.
Even if it's just a small investment.
You'll feel physically better, you'll feel better about yourself, and most importantly, you'll put yourself on a path that you'll be surprised where it ends up.
Amen to that.
Yep.
Chris, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Chad.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. If you're live right now on Facebook, if you catch us later, even on the YouTube, just put a comment below. We'll make sure to get you in contact. We'll go from there.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, guys. Cool.